Folks, you know we always have the heavy hitters on NoPixAfterDark podcast. And this guy, I've been trying to get this episode probably over 2 years. He one of the hardest working brothers I've known. He's doing so many great things. You know, you might see him on a Tamara Hall show. You might see him winning awards for podcasting. He's a producer. He's a writer. So many credits. He got the IMDb in for movies and whatnot, credits and whatnot. But I really wanted to have him on the show because he is doing so many great things, and I'm so excited to have him on. And what better person to have for Black History Month than Mr. D. Watkins?
We made a pledge to do what's best for the health of our communities, and we continue to deliver on it every day for every one of our members. With access to a network of over 1 million providers, rewards for living healthy, and more care options than ever, we are Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we are changing healthcare for all that we serve. At Care First, it's not just our name, it's our promise.
Welcome to the NoPixAfterDark podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Dante. I told you, we got nothing but the heavy hitters. Black History Month, we're going to go straight up and make sure we have everybody who's doing the walk and talk the talk. Mr. D. Watkins, what's up, brother? How you feeling?
What's up, man? Black History Month. I'm not even dead, man.
But hey, we here, though.
Because I'm old. Black History Month because I'm old.
No. But we making history.
Absolutely.
And that's why I really want the people. It's my strongest month for listeners. People really enjoy learning and get educated. So I always try to put the people who are making impact on it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to be here, man. I'm loving the space, loving the artwork, loving the dirt bike, and you repping Northeast, which is fire. Like that's what's up.
Man. I have to, man. I have to. So I got a lot of viewers from not from Baltimore. Give people a little bit quick background about who you are. Did you grow up in Baltimore? Where you grew up in Baltimore and whatnot?
I grew up in East Baltimore, man. Just like regular kid, man. A lot of energy, very curious. Curious enough that I kind of got in, I used to get in trouble a lot because I asked too many questions. But I was lucky enough to figure out a way to turn that curiosity into a career as an artist. My strongest thing about me and all my work, regardless of whatever medium I'm working in, is that I'm trying to figure something out.
I love that.
I went to Dunbar High School, man, from East Baltimore, man. Like, I'm a proud Baltimorean.
Okay. When you were like growing up, were you like into books? Were you a reader? Were you a writer? Was there somebody in the family who did something like that?
Nah. Which is my story is it's not as traditional as like a lot of other writers. Like, I would like to think that if books were put in front of me when I was a young person, then I would have happily chose this as my career path. But I didn't grow up with books in my crib. And it's crazy because I had read a study some years ago that said people who grow up with books in their home tend to do better than people who don't, even if no one reads them. And then I also read that the more words you know, the further you actually go in life. And I didn't know these things when I was coming up. When I was coming up, I was just infatuated with my neighborhood. Air Jordans and dirt bikes and people who, play basketball at Dunbar and, Acura Legends, Acura Vigors, the Land Rover, the Land Cruisers and all that. Like, people ain't had no Range Rover buddy back then, but they had the Lexus Land. So I was just infatuated with that kind of stuff and just always into the culture of what was happening in my neighborhood. And I didn't know, and I'm actually still being surprised to this day how big the culture we created in neighborhoods like down the hill and like up the hill and Northeast or whatever, Somerset Housing Projects, Douglas Housing Projects, all these different places. The culture we created in these streets, how we wear our clothes, how we wear our sneakers, how we match and design the labels with new like this is like it's global. They watch us globally, and then it's a New York Times article right now talking about the Travis Kelce haircut. I'm like, it's a white man with a fade, dog. Like,
they said he invented it.
That's what I'm saying. So, but this is like, any and every part of culture, especially Black culture, developed in inner cities, is like being picked apart by mainstream. They find it, they like it, they Christopher Columbus that shit, and then it's theirs. So but nah, man, I didn't grow up wanting to be a writer. I didn't even think about writing as a profession until I was in a hospital, and I was having a procedure done, and the nurse gave me a book, and she gave me a book, man. She gave me this book called The Coldest Winter Ever, and I was like pushing 30. I read that book in like a couple of days, which was quick for me because I wasn't a reader at the time, and I wanted more. It's funny when I tell the story because I went in for her phone number, and she's like, "Nah, I don't date thugs," and I'm like, "I'm not a thug," and she was like, "Well, why do you smell like weed? And everybody who visits you smell like weed," and I'm like, "Baby, we got cataract," She wasn't really feeling me, But she gave me that book, man, and I read that book, The Coldest Winter Ever. Then I've read everything Sister Soldier ever wrote, and then I read everybody who like her biggest influences, and I'm reading. I Know Why Cage Bird Sings, and I'm reading the Bell Hooks, and I'm reading the Toni Morrisons and the James Baldwins, and then I'm finding out about the Beat Poets. So I'm reading like On the Road and Neck and Lunch, and then I'm finding out about they was one their biggest influences, guys like Fyodor Dostoevsky. So I'm literally sitting in the projects reading Russian literature, like the snowball effect for me is I didn't know that I love reading. I just the right material and work was just never placed in front of me, and when it was placed in front of me, just like a snowball effect.
Were you like a freestylist in high school? Like if somebody gave you a beat, could you like freestyle off the beat? Like were you like I always wondered because I had a homegirl that was a white girl who was a writer, was the illest freestylist because she knew the wordplay. Like I'm curious, like that, like growing up, like were you ever like, could you memorize a song quickly and then freestyle off the beat? Or were you ever like one of those kids growing up?
Nah, I wasn't into it as much. I think I would have been into it if I was coming up now.
Okay.
But back when I was coming up, you had not too many rappers coming out of Baltimore. Like,
okay.
I remember, I'm old enough to remember the only two Baltimore rappers I ever knew or even heard of was Scar Akbar and Boss Man. They was like they was the only rappers. And when he was doing Northeast Kings, they was the only rappers that I knew from the city. And it's like, and I thought like, yo, these dudes are like brave. Like they really trying to crack that industry that seemed so impossible and so far away from where I was at that particular time in my life. We used to look up the street guys, and that's why most of us ended up being street guys. So where I come from, the street guys were more popular than the NBA players and the rappers. It was, you want to be a gangster. Like that's the most solid person that's around. That's the person who you see every day. That's the person who's there. That's the person who start the trends. That's the person who run the neighborhood. And that's what's accessible. And there's a direct path into being this guy or this woman. There's a direct path right there. And they there to mentor you every day. So you're not really interacting with, and I would come across, and when my little time in the street, I would come across like people who was in the industry, like, and I'm not even talking about Baltimore rappers. I'm talking about like New York rappers who was in the industry, and we would be like in Atlanta or something like that, and we'd be at a dice game, and the street guys would be at the dice game betting like 10,000, and the rappers would be in there like, yo, let me hold 500 so I can get in the game. So all of this stuff is circling my mind, like, yo, like. And now it's different because the streaming and rappers are independent or they're like, structuring their deals. They got the social media going on, so they're branding and they're doing these different things. But back when I was coming up, it wasn't. I don't know if I saw what it ended up with our culture transformed, evolved into. Then I probably would have tried to been rapping. But dudes like Scar and Boss Man, they was ahead of their time, man. They was ahead of their time.
So sounds like from just listening, just the book, from the book side of things, a nurse changed the whole trajectory of where you are right now.
Absolutely, man. I feel like if I could ever find her, man, I would like give her some money or something.
But yeah, I mean that's really like that's a big thing because that's like a huge turning point for you. And then you're reading literature from all sorts of life, everywhere and whatnot, and you picked up the pen. Like, how did that feel? Like picking up the pen and like really putting pen to paper. Like when you first wrote something and somebody was like, "Damn, this is some good ass work." Like, when did you feel that?
I think the storytelling part has always been in me. I like to listen to stories. I like to tell stories, but I like to listen to them as well. And I remember like just sitting outside as a little kid, just falling asleep on my block, knowing I should be in bed, but I was just too scared I was going to miss something. These dudes were master storytellers. Like they can make a trip from here to Northeast Market sound like the most spectacular shit in the world. You know, like going to the moon in Disneyland or some shit and like back. So it didn't take me long once I started putting pen to paper because I already knew how to structure a story. I knew the surprise element. I knew how to plant little seeds in the beginning and then reveal them later on. I knew about plot. Like I just knew about plot. Like I knew how to let me tell you what happened last night. Like I knew how to set up and I knew how to end. So I kind of those things were already in me, but learning how to write is something that I don't even think I really learned how to write until like my 5th book. Like by the time I got to like maybe book number 4. Book number 4 and 5 is when I really learned how to write.
Okay.
Like, and I'm talking about like I'm craft, like pure craft. Like, yeah, I can finish a project. Yeah, I can, I can crank out 100,000 words, whatever, in like a month and shit like that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can actually write. So I don't think really like I learned how to write into like book 4 and 5.
Interesting. Because I always give mad props to people who can write in literature because that's not my strong suit. I can do it, but I always find when I read some books, I'm like, wow, this is really good. It takes me, and I like how you talk about the storytelling. That's how I got into podcasting because I had uncles who could tell you some crazy ass story, and you'd be like, damn, I want to believe this, but I know he's lying.
But you want to hear it anyway.
Yeah, you want to keep.
I want to keep lying.
That's what you want. Like that's why I learned just hearing my uncles talk these stories. I'm like, what the hell? Like literally stories where you're like, what is he talking about? But keep on. And then they would come around my friends. My friends would be like, who are your uncles? Like, bring them around more often. We need them, and that's where I learned my storytelling. So it's kind of fascinating from the older people, the brothers you learn from like just telling the stories and whatnot. And you've carried that over to what you do now, with storytelling, and which has been amazing. So your first breakout when people were like, you were like, people like my stuff. When was that first time when it was like, like it wasn't like you were like something's going on?
I wrote this essay called "Too Poor for Pop Culture," and it was about how technology is class based. So the essays is it's taking place in like 2014, around the time when Obama had took the selfie at Nelson Mandela's funeral. Oh yeah. And I was over Latrobe playing cards, and people was in the crib talking about this story like it was new, but the story was like maybe a month, 2 months old. And at the moment we playing cards and they steady talking about the story like it just happened. Well, it didn't just happen, it just made it to them. Because technology is class-based. So they didn't have smartphones. They didn't have they had like the flip joints and like the joints you get like from the government. Like they didn't have iPhones and all that. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't really get the story as how we get something on Twitter, that 24-hour news cycle. That's a privilege. That's a privilege. And that was like a game they couldn't play. So I wrote that story and it went viral. And then the moment me and you kind of talked about briefly before we started, is it happened to me really quickly. Is everybody wanted me to come to every function. Everybody wanted me to come to everything. Everybody wanted me to speak on this and speak on that. They have all these opinions. People was critiquing my work, my body of work, and talking about what I need to do or stop doing or don't need to do. And I only had 2 essays published. I'm like, damn, dog, like I only got 2 essays out. How are you writing these articles on me or telling me this stuff about myself, and I only published 2 essays? So I think what it was is I came in with a voice that is common now, but it really wasn't there when I started, as far as like in the publishing world, obviously so many people had stories similar to mine. You come from the streets, you got some parents that was in the streets, whatever. But people wasn't writing about it in Baltimore and about Baltimore in like an artistic way. Like the people who came before me that was really doing their thing, and they still like they some of the biggest writers out there. It's like Westmore is before me, and Westmore's story is a beautiful story, but his story it kind of aligns with his pursuit of greatness after he got in trouble, and then he went to the military school, and he figured out how to build a life for himself, and then he did it parallel to the other Westmore, and I kind of grew up like the other Westmore, but not really, because I'm not, I grew up like the other, I grew up more like the other Westmore.
Gotcha.
Yes. But I just had a different philosophy on what I was going to do in the world, and then a guy like Ta-Nehisi Coates, who he found out he had these talents way before I got into this game. I was turning 30, so he's been a writer since he was in his early 20s, maybe even high school. So it's like he found that passion early on, and he rode that wave to his success. So and they would be like the closest things.
Right.
There was nobody else in the city. You had like
Can't
people,
think of anybody,
like people with the city paper was like, they had some people who told some good stories. Like Baynard Woods was always one of my favorite writers from down there.
Yeah.
But it was mostly like people that thought they loved black culture, even though they wasn't from the culture. And if they're reporting from the street, or if they're reporting about the street, they going to like the Crown or some shit. Like they not going like me and this guy who's a little younger than me named Lawrence Burney, we was like I was the first person to write about Young Moose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the artist,
Lawrence was the first one to write about Scooter. We are putting these people in like local newspapers and magazines. These are the biggest rappers in the city, but because they're not on the radar of the Baltimore Sun, or they wasn't on the radar of like the alternative paper was kind of only covering like white shit or like black shit that was white adjacent. So they wasn't even down with this. So it's like so the demand for the voice was so hungry locally that like David Simon reached out to me after I wrote one essay. One essay, he was like, "Hey, I know that voice. I know those stories. I like this. If you ever want to do TV, call me." Now that was like some shit that came years later, but this is like, and I'm thinking it's a joke because his essay don't say David Simon. I mean, his email, it doesn't say David Simon. It say like some other shit. So like a name where you don't know
alias,
it's him.
Alias, yeah.
But it's like I had that kind of pressure early on, and I think it's very, very easy to fold, and it's very easy to get scared and not be able to freely create when you have this many eyes on you, especially coming out of a city where, again, there was no one that was telling the stories from the inside, yelling out. Everybody's on the outside critiquing, but there was nobody that's like, you come find me, you're not finding me. And this is like, I'm talking about when I first started out, you finding me down Bocheck somewhere. You finding me on Ashland Avenue somewhere. You're not finding me. You ain't gonna find me inside no, you understand, little flashy spots and all that. Like you're not gonna find me there at this particular time. So it was a hunger for that. And then this is also happening at the same time where all of these unarmed black killings started going viral. So now people, they want to hear from the people who come from these situations.
You're the expert now.
Yeah, and then they shocked because they're like, well, we want to hear your side. And I'm like, all right, but like, wait, or leave me the fuck alone. Or I don't feel like I'm too busy being oppressed to enlighten you, motherfuckers. Leave me alone. And it's fucking their head up. So they're like, oh my God, I want more. And then it's like snowballs and spirals to that type of thing.
Wow, that's
some weird ass time.
That's a weird time. That's definitely a weird time. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. We're going to talk about how you transitioned to where you are now. And is it still weird? We talked off camera, but is it still weird? How do you handle this type of pressure now, your day-to-day out business? Talk about the books that you've written, and also like the shows that you produce, and we'll talk a little bit about that, just behind the scenes, take people a little peek behind the curtain a little bit.
Cool.
All right, folks, we'll be right back with these messages.
When you give to United Way, your gift could be the first spark of something bigger. It can help someone find, interview for, and get hired for a job, and provide follow-up services for success. It can break down educational barriers and give that extra help to a struggling student with in-school support programs. Give today. Spark something bigger.
Are you or someone you love in need of mental health support? For All Seasons is now offering same-day therapy appointments with no wait list. Through the For All Seasons open access program, you can walk in for mental health services and begin therapy in the same visit. For All Seasons accepts all insurances and provides financial assistance if you need it. For therapy, psychiatry, or victim support, we have appointments available today. Call For All Seasons 410-822-1018.
And folks, we are back with Mr. D. Watkins. Thank you so much for coming into the podcast, hanging out with me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, good, man. I'm happy to be here, man.
Really appreciate you, opening it up and telling. So let's start off the top. We talked a little bit about off camera, the fellowship. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you just won. Go ahead, tell. You go ahead.
I'm so fortunate. I'm so fortunate to be the third Gordon Parks Writing Fellow, and it's a big deal for me because I've won some awards in the past, and I'm thankful for all of them. Small places to the places that are like statewide and countrywide and things like that. But this one's special to me because, number one, one of my best friends and my biggest inspirations, Devin Allen, was actually the original Gordon Parks Fellow. Mm-hmm. Before Devin was a Gordon Parks Fellow, I gifted Devin a Gordon Parks Half Past Autumn book from his expedition, like from the first run, which is like a book's worth a lot of bread. But I gave it to him because I was like, yo, you the next Gordon, and he was down with Gordon, and he was thankful. But this is at the time, like, again, early in my career, I'm watching Half Past Autumn, which is a documentary about the life of Gordon Parks. I'm watching Half Past Autumn like at least once a week. So like I really, really, really admire how he started his career late like me, how he works in different mediums like me, how he just doesn't really care about the outside noise. He just creates. And I'm like, yo, I want to be like that one day. So when my homeboy ended up being the first fellow, I'm like, yo, that's lit. So as the foundation grew, Devin, he goes to the gala every year, and I got a chance to go with him to the gala where he won something called the Steidl Book Prize, which is Steidl's like a really, really, really prestigious art bookmaker in Germany, right? This is like, and they don't work with anybody, so his images are that serious that they was like, yo, we wanna do a book with Devin Allen. So I was having lunch with Devin, and his editor for the book was in town. So, we all got together and we talked about it a little bit. And she was like, hey, you wrote in Devin's other 2 books. And I was like, yeah. She was like, would you be up for writing in this one? And I was like, that's like my brother, like whatever. If he wanted, it's all good. I'm not thinking nothing of it, bro. But when they told me, this is how I am, like, and I guess this is like the rap shit you get from me. When you tell me that other writers are in a book, I'm trying to cut heads off. Like, right. My shit is like, oh, right. Well, and right. I with love though, because everybody in all the Devin books are all writers that are like, they the shit in their own way. Mm-hmm. So he's writing this book. He's doing a Steidl book with our good brother out in LA. He from Jersey, but he out in LA, Donnell Moore. And Donnell Moore is like a real talented, super respected dude, right? He's really, really good. So I'm like, yo, I can't be fucking around because Donnell Moore's in the book.
You gotta come correct.
So I gotta come correct. So I wrote my shit, and Donnell did his thing, and but Donnell hit me up and was like, yo, your shit is crazy. Like, and I'm like, I ain't even see your shit yet. So then I get a phone call from the editor, and they was like, yo, this came to my mind, after I read your essay. I started looking at your other work, and I'm like, you're shortlisted to be a fellow. And I said, man, stop it. And she's like, you're shortlisted to be a fellow. There's a couple of things you need. Pitch a project, get some recommendations, and and send over your CV and cross your fingers.
Done.
So I'm just like, so recommendations, dog. I'm digging in my bag. So like Amy Sherrill, who painted the Michelle Obama joint, I got Amy. Derek Adams was like one of the biggest artists. He's out of here. I got Derek. I got obviously Devin, and I came up with a meme with like 4 or 5 different pitches. Presented the best one, and then my wife had redid my CV, and even though my CV, we looking at it like, damn, because I like over the past 10 years, I published like 800 articles on top of the books I wrote for, on top of the ghostwriting shit, on top of the essays and like special collections and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, I've written a lot, and they gave me that phone call and they was like, yo, the board voted for you unanimously. And they like, I get honored. Samuel L. Jackson is going to do a Richard Roundtree honor. And then I get honored next to Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats. It's going to be like a special night. They're going to unveil Devin's book. Devin's going to introduce me. And this is like it's a beautiful gala. It's a beautiful event. Best of the best artists come out, and it's like from like hip hop, like Black Thought's always there, to like obviously like people like Swiss Beats and stuff like that. But then like the Spike Lees and all them people are always there. The top writers are always there. People like Leonardo DiCaprio and them type people who like really, really appreciates Gordon's work. They appreciate Gordon's work. They're always there. And my homeboy from West Baltimore is like at the top of that shit. It like he just, and you can see him walking up and down the street with his camera putting work in.
Right.
And I'm honored because of his mentality and his grind. But then I'm also honored because we both used our talent to put so many people on in this city. And I know everybody's self-made and nobody talks about how they got there, and everybody got it out in the mud and did it on their own, and everybody's their parents didn't even fuck, they just fucking it emerged from the gods. Everybody's self-made and shit. But we really like put each other on, put our friends on, put other people on, started people's careers, and it's getting recognized at like this big national level, and I'm just super thankful for that.
And I loved what you talked about was that part that you said, this is my guy. I want to invest in my guy. Let me get this book for him. Let me have him so you look at that. Just really investing in friendship and that sense of community. And I love hearing that. Because that's like, I believe in you, brother. Like, let's go. You got magic behind that camera. And I love hearing that. Because, like, how many people do that for other people and really believe in your friends and stuff like that? And I love hearing that sense of family and community. That warms my heart hearing that. Because that's what it's all about to me.
Absolutely.
It's really, because I always tell people, they're like, how do you do it? Come and sit here and watch. Take time out your day. You want to come to this meeting? Come here. I don't have nothing to hide. I want to share because guess what? Somebody else can come behind me, and I want to make it easy for them to get to what they gotta get.
Got to.
And that's how I look at it. How do you leave your legacy? What have you done for what you're leaving behind? So I love that you said that.
That's how you set up a situation where it's like, yo, we're gonna build this studio. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you got $1 million, I got $1 million. Let's get together. Let's make something shake. Let's create these scholarships for these kids. Let's give these kids these opportunities to come in and learn how to run their own podcast or be their own producers or their own cameraman. Like, let's get to it. Like, let's have a community. I'm not going to speak on people who don't think like that. I'm just going to say that I'll keep being an example and trying my best to build community to the best of my ability.
And that's exactly what I'm doing now. It's funny behind the scenes right now. Like I'm teaching podcast classes, like helping out, just drop it in at Towson, just drop it in. And we're working on some things behind the scenes. We're just trying to figure out we can do something further. Because again, a lot of people are like, it's a new thing. And people are doing it, and more. I mean, you see Joe Rogan just re-up for like another $250 million.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
The money is there.
Crazy.
Don't let anybody tell you the money ain't there. It's there. You know what I mean? So that's what I tell people.
It's crazy. He had all the money inside his neck. Neck big as shit.
He does got a big ass neck. Joe Rogan has a big. Yeah, he does. He definitely does.
He got 250 in that money. He got the 250 in there.
He is a lot. Yeah, he's a lot of money right now. So out of all your books, which one is one of your favorite ones that you've written?
Probably Black Boy Smile, because I talk about I talk about my wife, and I talk about my daughter, and I talk about how so many different things had to happen and go right or go wrong for us to be in a position to be in the same space at the same time to even be able to consider a reality with each other. And I trace that journey through the lens of masculinity. So it was a fun book to write. And it was difficult because instead of me making it linear, I chose to tell the whole book in moments. So it's a collection of moments, and they led up to this big moment. And so creatively, that's like one of my favorite. I think the B-side is going to be one of my favorite because it was that first book, and it was that first book, and
It's your baby.
I was grinding, I was working, I wasn't paying attention, and the PR guy was like, "I'm not going to be a bestseller, but I'm going to have a good career, and I'm going to be able to sell another book." And as he's saying that, we get in the car from the New York Times. He was like, "Yo, he's a bestseller." So
You're like, I don't need you anymore, bro. Or I don't know. Are you maybe still the same PR person?
Nah, I mean he was a PR person that worked for the imprint, so he wasn't my PR guy.
I was like,
He just worked for the imprint, and I'm just like, I mean, I don't need like a lot of praise and all that, but I also don't need like a defeatist energy. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
the wrong
you
energy.
don't got to kiss my ass and tell me I'm great, but also don't restrict me. Like, let me rock out.
That's the wrong type of energy that nobody wants. Nobody wants to hear that.
So that's but all of them are special in their own way. We speak for ourselves. There's no profanity. Cook Up talks about everything, the reality of selling drugs. You hear about the cars and the jewelry, but giving your friend's mom something so she don't got a prostitute is like a double fucking nightmare either way you lose. So it's like the hells. We hear about the heavens, but it talks about the hell that comes with it. I just co-wrote Mike Africa's book. I just submitted that maybe a month ago. We finally finished it, but in 1985, the Philadelphia Police Department, from direction of Wilson Goode, the first black mayor, bombed a residential home on Osage Avenue in West Philly, killing 12 people, 11 people, 6 were kids. And my good friend Mike Africa survived that bombing, and he wanted to tell his story. And I'm just thankful that he chose me to help with that. He believed in my work and my voice, and it's a delicate story. He chose me, and I'm thankful for that.
How was writing that? How did you were you emotional writing that? Knowing that, I mean, I know it's like you're knowing that what happened and what took place, and he witnessed it. Or you just wrote it and could you see yourself immersing into that, him understanding what he went through?
I mean, I'm more of when it comes to ghostwriting, I'm more of a technician.
Okay.
I don't deal in emotion. I deal in emotion with my own work, but with other people's work, it's more or less their emotion. It's their struggle and it's their battle. So when I'm writing it, I'm like, damn, this is as we working on it together, I'm like, yo, this is fucked up. But those feelings, I don't even think it would be possible for me to take on those feelings. It's kind of like you build a hotel. People are going to sleep in there and overdose in there and fuck in there and take shits in there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you're a technician. You're coming in to build the space so these things can happen. I feel like I built the space so he could get that stuff out. We'll see. I like collaborating. That's a collaboration. The book I did with Carmelo Anthony was a collaboration. But then I ghost wrote a book for an NBA player that's just as famous as Carmelo. Another future Hall of Famer. So we got together and we and again, I took his feelings and his emotions and what went on with his life, and I organized them and wrote some pretty sentences and kind of made it shape.
I like it. When you get asked by these NBA people, other celebrities maybe, whatever it is, how do you feel? Is it honored when they reach out to you and say, hey, I want you to help ghostwrite this for me?
Normally no. I think Carmelo was an honor because I just watched his career so closely.
Okay.
He was just in town this weekend with the Mellow Classic. That was at Towson.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fire. But I think I watched Carmelo's career so closely. I was a couple of years older than him, so when he was like over down the Dome and over Bocek and over Patterson Park, and he was coming through with his crew and just beating the shit out of everybody. I was one of them dudes they threw off the court. I was one of them dudes. He was bad, man. He was tough, man. He was tough all the way through. You know, even before he got the height. So that was an honor because, you know, I was always just a fan. And then one of my really, really, really close friends that I grew up with has been his stylist for like the past 15 years or something, 20 years or something like that. So it's like we got a chance to reconnect like on the business side of it, you know. I always looked up to Bay and thought Bay was a stand-up guy, man, smart businessman, just one of the coolest people you can ever meet. So just to even connect with that group and those people was just like, you know, with Kalela and Bay was just like was fire. And then Mello's his best friend is my good friend Kenny Mana, and we didn't even the deal didn't even come through any of this. The deal literally came from his people in New York and my people in New York, and they was and he, you know, he was saying he was ready to do a book, and they had went to this guy Wesley Lowry. Wesley Lowry's like a real famous popular journalist. He's like a big time journalist. He won a Pulitzer when he was like in his 20s, like coming out the gate with his reporting. So he's a serious guy. And Wesley was taking on some ghost jobs, and Wesley was like, "Yo, I think you should, you know, you shouldn't be fucking with me. You should be fucking with D." And then the agent was like, "Yo, I know him because we was gonna work together like way back." And before he got the CAA, so he reached out, and I was like, "Yo, what?" I was like, "Yo, yeah, for sure." So me and Mello got together and, you know, had some drinks and talked some shit and told some old stories. And I'm like, "Yo, this is going to be easy." I'm like, "Yo, this is like my brother from like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is like a long lost brother, like, but you know, with parallel lives." So it was like an easy situation. One of the ghost jobs that was kind of, I'll tell you about it off camera, but a writer, a dude who called himself a writer anyway, he had the book for 2 years and he didn't do shit. They brung me in because they saw that how good the Mellow book was, and they brung me in and they gave me like a month to write like 65, 70,000 words. Ooh. And this guy had it for 2 years and ain't do shit but like 1,000 words. Wow. And I came in and we had a couple Zooms. And then I got on the phone with his mom. I got on the phone with like his pops. And then I spent some time with like his agent and shit, man, and watched a couple interviews, and I popped that shit right out. So that was like a real cool, fun job for me.
Now, what about, I gotta talk about this, because, brother, you doing this, producing, you're executive director on one of the TV shows on HBO. How does that feel? To get credits for that? Like, that's crazy to me, bro. So tell me, like, walk me, because, like, your name's on it, like, that's a whole different thing.
This is gonna sound like some corny shit that I'm just saying.
It's cool that we here.
Yo, but it's not. I'm not no bullshit. Yo, I fucking love HBO.
Okay.
Like I always, since I was a kid, Fraggle Rocks and shit.
Right. Fraggle Rock. Yeah.
Yo, I always fuck with HBO.
I love it.
I always love HBO. I loved them shows, man, because there was no shows that was as character driven like Oz.
Yeah,
like,
Oz was different.
Oz was different.
That was the most different thing I've ever seen.
And Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, you know, that shit like 20 years old. So if we just going back 6 feet under, The Sopranos, The Corner, The Wire.
Corner was one of my favorite shows, actually.
I always loved HBO. So, and I always just vision myself being affiliated with that company and that network. And so when it happened, it's a story behind the story. But I wrote the story too poor for pop culture. David reached out to me. He was like, "Yo, you ever want to get in TV? Let me know." And I'm like, "Yo, I'm actually broke right now. I would love to fucking get in TV." And he was like, "I'm not working on anything right now that I think would be a fit." But you know, I filed that away. I didn't stop and wait. I didn't sit on my hands.
You gonna go ahead?
I kept working. I told you, I wrote like fucking 800 articles. So I kept working and shit. So I started writing about these cops. Because Moose was my man, and Moose was a rapper. Moose was from the neighborhood, but Moose is also just happened to be the most famous rapper. Like when my cousin Donna got killed, Moose's father and his homeboys was the first. This is like, but when Moose was a baby, his father and his homeboys, they the first one down here. Like, yo, who did it? Like, where they at? Like, let's do this. Like, so our families intertwined. We go back. So Herschel, who Josh Charles played, was harassing my big homies.
Oh, wow.
Then he was harassing me. And then now I'm out the streets and I'm like wearing khakis and working as like a substitute teacher and shit. Now he harassing the young boys.
Of course.
So he harassing generations of people. So
That's trauma. That's trauma right there by itself.
I wrote about that shit. Everybody read it. It went crazy. It went to the internal affairs. Internal affairs dude reached out to me with this long ass letter, and I was like, yo, I appreciate this letter, but I don't really be I don't be talking to police and shit, right. But the internal affairs dude ended up being cool because he ended up being in a documentary that I did with HBO. He ended up being on the documentary, so the internal affairs guy told his boss, like, yo, this guy D. Watkins is talking about Herschel. We need to do something about this. And his boss is like, well, who the fuck is D. Watkins? And he was like, yo, he's a writer from Baltimore. And he's like, nobody gonna read that shit. He was like, yo, he's in the New York Times. And he's also a New York Times bestseller.
Right. Like, come on. Like, really? Like,
so they ended up forcing this guy out of the, not because of that, but because of like, his frustration and how he always pushed them. They ended up forcing him out. So David read that article and was like, all right, bet. And mind you, this is still 2014. I don't really hear nothing. I ended up putting a book out. I put a book out in 2015, and I got like a small book advance, and I'm on tour. And but it's a little tour, so I just took my advance and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna call some bookstores in the Bay Area, because the Bay Area was already trying to get me on these different radio shows. So I'm like, yo, I'm gonna just go do some events out the Bay Area. So I'm going out there for one event. I ended up staying in the Bay Area for like 3 weeks because I'm booking little shit and people fucking with me, and I'm like making a name. That's still like one of my biggest areas for book sales. So I'm chilling in the Bay Area, and now I'm going back home. My booker at the time, she my manager now, but back then she just used to like book my events and do emails, and but now we kind of built a business. But she was like, yo, you gotta stay out there. I was like, yo, I'm out of money and clothes.
Right.
I'm coming home. And she's like, nah, you got a meeting in LA. So I'm like, yo, do they got some money for me? She like, no. I said, well, fuck them. I said, Skype me. This back when this niggas want to zoom in. I'm like,
Zoom yet.
I'm like, Skype me or some shit. So I get to the airport gate and she changed my ticket. You know how you scan your little ticket?
Right.
So my ticket, I'm in the airport. So you know how you board in the plane? Oh, sir, this ticket been canceled. I'm like, man, what?
Right.
She like, yo, I know. Just go down. Just go take this meeting. She was like, yo, she sent me down to another gate. Mind you, I was like flying regular class, and it was good with it because I was broke.
Right.
So I was like, yo, I would still fly that shit if I had to, if I'm trying to get where I'm trying to go. But it ain't gonna stop me from taking no flight. But yo, I go down to a part of the airport in like a special room because she gave me some instructions and it's like some special shit. And I'm like, yo, what kind of shit is this?
Private jet.
And then it wasn't private, but it was like and you know how you go into like an airport and then they got like the Amex lounge?
Right.
It was some shit that was like above that.
Amex. Oh, wow.
Like it was some shit where they giving out like foot rubs and shit. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this? Then I'm looking at my ticket and you sitting in seat AAA 111, whatever. And they bringing me champagne and calling me Mr. Watkins and shit. And I'm like, yo, am I going to meet fucking Buffett or something?
Right.
I'm like, yo, what's happening? So I get on the plane and I get out the plane and she called me and she was like, yo, they're going to pick you up. And I'm like, who is they? She was like, yo, I'll call you in 10 minutes. So I'm walking out the airport and I see this dude with this big sign, Mr. D. Watkins or whatever. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I get in the car and he just started asking me about like my dietary restrictions and shit. And I'm like, well, I don't eat pork and I fucking hate spaghetti.
Right.
Other than that, we can rock. You know what I mean? She's like, yo, you going over Will Smith's house? And I'm like, for what? So what the fuck I'm going over there for? So she was like, I don't know, but they called and I answered. So I'm like, bet. So I get over there and I find out that they want to do this movie called 12 O'Clock Boys about dirt bikes in Baltimore. And they just, and it ain't Will, It's Jada and her brother Caleb and her daughter Willow. So they asking me all kinds of questions, and I'm not like a starstruck kind of dude.
Right.
Like, you know, the stars for me is from my neighborhood. So I'm like regular, you know, I'm like, so I'm shocked. But then I'm like, all right, I ain't answering all these motherfucking questions. I'm like, yo, let's get some money.
I need to get paid for this because this is consulting.
I'm like,
now.
bro,
I'm consulting.
I'm like, bro, won't you hire me to write it? She like, nah, we already got to write it. We got to write it, but you gonna work on the film. You gonna work on the film. She like, matter of fact, who's your agent? So at the time, I ain't have an agent, but I was like, yo, I'm gonna go get an agent, and I'll come back tomorrow. So I went back to my hotel room, and I was real good friends with Sonya's son, who played Kama on The Wire.
Yeah.
And Sonya hooked me up with her agent, and her agent was like, yeah, all right, I represent the kid. And then he jumped in and he put a deal together for me. And I went back and we laid it down, and then I forgot about it. I ain't heard nothing else about it. So maybe like 2018 or some shit. They hit me up and was like, yo, the film got green. We coming to Baltimore. The film, you gonna work on it. And then I get the set, and I was so frustrated with television that because they didn't let me work. They didn't listen to none of my direction, none of my suggestions, none of my ideas on if you want this film to be a Baltimore film. If you want to tap into the culture, well, this is the culture. And the producer, he wasn't hearing that shit. So I'm like, yo, I'm starting to pick up and book thing. I got my professor gig. I'm getting booked to speak places. I'm rocking and rolling. I'm going out the country for gigs. I'm rolling. So I'm like, yo, I don't need this shit. Like, fuck this TV shit. I'm not even thinking about it. Those cops I wrote about, they started getting indicted around the same time. So when they started getting indicted, David Simon called me up and was like, hey, you want to come hang out in the writer's room? And I was like, yo, yeah, for sure. Because it don't hurt to learn the process. And I'm thinking I'm coming to watch because he never said nothing about a job.
Right.
So I'm just sitting in there, and it's like a lot of writers in there.
How many look like us in the room?
Like me?
Yeah.
Just me.
Just you only want to look like you.
Just me.
Interesting.
For this project. But
Okay.
he got other projects, like the Deuce had a lot of women. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like his room. So David Simon's a very, very interesting guy because he don't really be fucking with TV writers. He be fucking with like the journalists and like the people who covered it. So regardless, you can be a 8-foot black motherfucker or like a 2-foot Asian little person.
Right.
He whoever covered the story is who he fucking with.
I got you.
You know what I mean?
Got you.
And I saw somebody giving him some flack for that on Twitter, and I'm like, yo, y'all don't even know. Like y'all don't even know. Y'all don't even know how this shit works.
Right.
You don't even know how it works. So
Right.
so I get to the room and it's a lot of people in there, and we spitting ideas and shit, and then I come back and it's like a smaller amount, and then I come back and it's like you got episode 3. I'm like damn, and then it's just a crew, so it's just us, and everybody in there did the wire except for me. I was the only person that wasn't on a wire, but me and David ended up collaborating on a wire book. We did a wire coffee table book.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I'm just watching him, and I'm watching George Pelicanos, and I'm just learning, and HBO liked my script. So that's why they came back and asked me to do the podcast.
Yep.
And then that's why they asked me to do
Awards,
the Wire
yep.
book. But then I also had did a documentary with Sonya called The Slow Hustle.
Yes, I
Where
saw
I
that.
did The Slow Hustle. So before all of this shit even went down, I write this long essay about the history of me and Herschel, and me being from down the hill and him being from Highlandtown. So when I wrote that, that's when John Bernthal agent got that and was like, you need to play Herschel. So John Bernthal hit me on Twitter in like a long ass DM, and I'm like, yo, where the fuck I know yo from?
Right.
Cause he got one of them actors, like his name big as shit now, but his name been big for a minute.
For a while,
but
yeah.
I'm talking about now his shit is like, people know John Bernthal.
Right.
Because I ain't watched The Walking Dead and all that.
Yeah,
so I knew him from Wall
he was
Street. And I'm like, yo, that's my man from Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's my man from Wall Street and shit. So John hit me up, and we had a long ass conversation, and John was like, yo, I'm trying to buy this essay from you and make it into a film. What's up? I got the director signed on and everything. Let's get busy. And I'm like, John, I ain't gonna lie, I'm a loyal dude, man. Me and David Simon did a writer's room where he trying to bring it to life, and I ain't trying to step on nobody's toes. So if you really fuck with this story, you need to be fucking with David. And he like, bet, I already know David, because they did the shit up in Yonkers.
Which one?
They did the Show Me a Hero joint.
Okay,
The Youngest.
okay.
So 2-3 weeks later, man, John hit me up here in Baltimore, man. He said he down in the production office doing push-ups on his knuckles in front of the building.
Stop.
I say, yo, he's a wild boy. So me and John been locked in. Me and John been like that. So me and John got the he bringing me on to this show that we supposed to do in Shreveport, Louisiana. That he been trying to develop. We going to do something with the writers, but it's like everything go back to HBO. So like HBO, I did the Slow Hustle. I did the podcast. I did the
12 O'Clock Boys was HBO.
It came out on Max. It came out on Max. So
Yeah,
like
it's all the
HBO
same
Max.
now. Yeah.
So like then I got the situation. George Pelicano's got his own HBO deal. He did the While You Were David. He bring me in to write another movie. So that movie's sitting with them right now. We waiting for edits.
Wow. So I feel like once you're in the HBO family, you're in the family.
Yeah.
I feel like once you're in the family, you're in the family.
Yeah, and for me, like I think for me, it'll be a full circle moment if I end up signing an overall deal with them. But I don't know because somebody else might come through with the bag, and it's like, you know, I love brands, but I'm more loyal to the bag.
that pays the bills. That pays the bills.
I'm into the bag. So so it's been a whole HBO for. But for me, I love working in television so much, especially when you get to produce, because you get the opportunity to just create opportunity. Like we hired 5,000 people who wasn't working over the pandemic, mostly from Baltimore and like the surrounding counties. And we was paying people who wasn't getting paid. A whole lot of people who came and worked on the set, and unions, so as soon as they jumped off our show, they jumped on another show.
I love that.
You know, like just working with David, I saw what it takes and the type of writing you need to bring a $90 million budget to a city full of artists who get into other shit because they don't get a chance to work on their art. And then we put victims who really like had run-ins with these offices in the show. So we did all of that, and that's the biggest part of the story that I wish was out there, that I wish would people talk about, but they don't really, it wasn't, you know, it got promoted as like, whatever, why they telling the cop story, why they making Baltimore this and that, and it's like, dog, like this is smart television, and this is also directly impacting the people who suffered the most.
Right. People don't get it though. People don't get it.
Man. I don't know, man. I don't know.
But what would you tell me? Me and you could talk all day because I love this. I love this. We might have to do a part 2 because I really, we got so much to dig in with. You got so many great things going on. Just you and I talking today. What would you want people to walk away with from our conversation today? Just so you and I talking today. What would you want to? Because I feel like we can do a part 2. Because I feel like you and I have talked offline. Because I was saying I would love to do something live with you. We talked about it, and I'm sure we can figure it out. But what would you want people to walk away from this part of what we talked about today?
Nobody gets there alone. Everybody has help. I mean, everybody needs help. Everybody needs support. If the person appears to be or seems like they're really successful or not, everybody needs help and support. And you know, and we have to be better at that. Like I said, I try my best to pour into other artists. I appreciate the artists that pour into me, and I think I like to talk about that, and I like to talk about how we're not anything unless the community is strong. We'll never be, you know, as great as we could be.
I love that. And then I know also you have a podcast also that comes out. Also, you still do that with Saloon?
Yeah. More articles, but I interview artists from time to time. Like I'm interviewing a comedian, Dulce Salone. Tomorrow she's like a correspondent on the Daily Show. She do her thing. She's the voice of Honey Bee on the Great North. Okay. So I'm interviewing her tomorrow. Probably interview JB Smooth for Curb Your Enthusiasm final season. He probably come on the show one day next week. So it's like we had a little funny conversations. We try to dig deep. I try to look for you know, I try to find them angles.
You gonna bring Cat on?
He might be, man, we don't be doing 5 million, 10 million, 30 million hits, man. So he might not come fuck with us, man. But he's hilarious, dog.
He is.
People don't understand that interview was like a stand up. It was like a performance. It was literally like a performance.
Phenomenal.
They fact checking it and all that, and I'm like, dog, I don't think that was the point.
That wasn't the point.
I think the emotional the emotional journey that he's had on top of the fact that he's just a funny motherfucker was the point.
That was the best point.
And it hit.
And I watched for 2.5 hours. Now, I've never watched a podcast 2.5 hours. I've never watched. You know what I mean? That's a long time. Just sitting there, listen to somebody. But what do you got going on? Anything coming on? Like, are you gonna be out any place in March, April? Because this is coming out in February. But like, when anything coming out? Anything people can check you at a bookstore, the Ivy or whatever?
I've been working on this story for a while. A long story on Dwayne Wade.
Okay.
So I've been following Dwayne Wade around like Milwaukee and Chicago, and I'm going out to Miami, LA. But looking forward to that. Look out for that story because I think it's gonna be one of those special stories.
Great. And where can people find you on social media, your website, anything like that? They can follow you, shoot you, say, hey, I want to maybe learn a little bit or shadow you, or young kid might want to just know insight, possibly.
At D Watkins World. Follow me on social media at D Watkins World.
My God, but I'm not gonna let you off easy. Gotta do a quick speed round real quick. All right?
Okay.
All right. Crabs. You want to do crab cakes or regular hard shell steamed crabs?
Hard shell, steamed crabs.
Steamed crabs, okay. Do you put butter or vinegar in your crabs?
None. As long as they got Old Bay, I'm eating that shit how it is.
All right. Snowballs, snowball ice cream.
Snowball and custard.
Okay, all right. Your favorite Super Bowl halftime show? Performance?
Damn, that's a tough one. There's been so many. Probably Rihanna.
Last year, okay.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, Rihanna shit was fire.
My favorite was Prince because he was playing Purple Rain.
In the rain. Yeah, in the
rain.
Was, no, that shit was special.
It was special because, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, and I saw him the last time before he passed away when he came to Baltimore and performed.
No, that was special. That Purple Rain joint was special.
It was different. So if I hop in your car right now, what will you and I be listening to?
Probably an instrumental of fucking Matrix 3.
Okay.
The score. I be listening to like scores and like I listen to like I don't listen to words as much. I listen to a lot of instrumentals, a lot of sets from different jazz artists, musicians, shit like that. I love music, but like when I'm writing a lot, I just don't want to be influenced by anything.
I get you.
Yeah, some shit you hear in a song that you're not even paying attention to might make it into an essay, and then you look like you still. A lot of niggas still. I just don't want to look. I just don't want to be one of them.
Wow, that's real. I never thought about that, but that doesn't make sense. That definitely makes sense. Your favorite hip hop artist?
Jay-Z.
We're waiting for the interview when you do that. We'll see. Hopefully that comes in fruition.
What's that?
You and doing a Jay-Z interview.
A Jay-Z interview? I don't know, man. He's too smart, man. You might not get nothing out of him, man. Yeah, you might not get. Calculated. He's a guarded dude, man. Everything he's thinking 8 questions ahead, man. Facts. I don't know. You know, it's crazy. It's like sometimes, especially in dealing with like those big, like celebrities, icons, whatever in general. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like it's more safe when you don't meet them. Have you ever been let down? You ever meet somebody you always wanted to meet and they're like a fucking asshole?
That's the worst feeling.
Not saying that would be Jay, but I've
met some people that I was like, I thought they were something, and when you talk to them, you're like, oh my God, they're like the worst. They're like, and I've gone through that with some podcast people I've interviewed, and I'm like you're kind of like, damn, I thought you were this way, but you're really not this way. Or you meet him, you're like,
Like, I'm like the biggest Stevie Wonder fan. Like, my favorite album is probably, After Reasonable Doubt, is probably The Secret Life of Plants. Like,
right.
I'm a big Stevie Wonder fan. I don't want to kick it with Steve. You don't want
to leave it there.
I just want to, because you know what's crazy? When somebody's like an asshole.
Yep.
And not to say Stevie or Jay or anybody would be like that. I'm not projecting, but I'm just saying, it's kind of hard to look at the art the same.
Right.
If somebody's an asshole. Okay. And I know people probably got them stories about me and shit because I remember one time I was doing an event and it just so happened that my manager was sitting in the audience by this girl. So I'm doing the event. I'm about to do an event and it's packed. It's like 600 people packed into the spot. I'm in the green room. The girl broke past the green room and came in past the interviewer that was interviewing me before the joint and asked me to sign her book. So I'm about to sign it, and the bookstore's like, no. They're like, no, you gotta wait. You're not even supposed to be back here, right? So the girl stomped out there. So she goes right in the audience, and she sit down and tell her friend, "Oh, D. Watkins is such an asshole. Something." And the girl was like, he back there want to interview her. They wasn't even his mother. They ain't let his mother back there.
Right.
So like, they ain't let my mother back there. How you an asshole? Like, what you talking about? And then the girl like apologized and fixed it. But it's like, you know, I could be an asshole and I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything.
So, and I say all that to say, somebody could be having a bad day. Like, you know what I'm saying? Say if like, you know, you about to meet, you always wanted to meet Ava DuVernay.
Right.
And before you meet her, she was at the gym and she got crossed over and dunked on, and now she's like sad and shit. And she's like, is that she comes there to meet, she might not be herself. So that's the thing too. So I would love to meet a Stevie Wonder or a Jay-Z, but also I'm okay. The work has mentored me and gave me way more than what I paid for.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. We're gonna do so. I definitely as we spoke. Hopefully, do something really live and really do with you, and hopefully,
let's get it.
And I appreciate your time.
Yeah, let's get it,
folks. Love, peace. We're out.
Never seen so many riches in my life.